Welcome to Broken Entertainment. So today we're going to review a book that one of my subscribers requested that I go ahead and review. And he is the author of this book, Carl Weber. And before I get into the review, I'm going to lay some ground rules going forward. So if you want me to review a book, whether you're the author or not, I'll be happy to do so. Send me a link, especially if you are the author. I want to support creators as much as I possibly can. These ground rules are saying nothing about this book. This is just, I want to lay this out there so you understand the process and what I'm going to do. When I review a book like this and somebody that is a creator, if I read it and I'm like, I can't really give it a recommendation, or if there's got major problems or what I perceive as major problems with it, I'll contact the author and see what they want me to do. My inclination is to not do a video in that case, but instead, see if they're interested in feedback or a critique or what have you, because this is about supporting creators, not just putting out a video, right? This is about supporting people, not trying to bring them down. Didn't have those problems with this book, so we're going to go forward with it. Now, I read the digital edition of this, and so I don't know the paperback. That being said, it's printed on demand by Amazon, so I'm sure it's good quality in that regard as far as all the physical stuff goes. Probably end up buying the physical copy at a later date, because I like to do that with digital or audiobooks so that I have physical copies, because I like physical copies. This is a spy thriller novel. It is, according to this, 178 pages long when you print it. It reads very, very quickly, and I think that's great. That's what you want in this kind of book, right? The thriller books, especially spy thriller books, to me, you want a fast pace, and the author absolutely nails the pacing, 100%. And this blurb says, fans of Ian Fleming's James Bond, Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, Vince Flynn's Mitch Rapp, will find Carl Weber's Annabelle Perkins as a new spy action hero worthy of their time. I definitely see where the James Bond influence came from, for sure. And some of the Jack Ryan. The other character I'm not familiar with, so I can't comment. And I don't want to get into spoilers, so I'll just kind of go here. The pacing is on point. Descriptions are pretty strong. You don't get into any kind of White Room Syndrome situations. All the characters also have their own distinct voices. By comparison, I'm listening to a fantasy novel right now by a somewhat established author. And I've tried to read that book a couple of times, and finally I said, you know what? I got credits laying around on Audible. I'm just going to try to listen to it. And I still almost quit until about halfway through, and this is like a 600-page book. About halfway through, all of a sudden, some character voices started to come out. So, character voice is a big deal. And it's a problem a lot of authors can have, where, especially newer authors, where you have a hard time getting that character voice down. This novel does not suffer from that, and this is actually the second novel in a series. I have not read the first. I'll get into that probably at another time. The nice thing about that is you don't actually have to read the first book to understand the second book if you happen to pick up this book first, because the book it feeds off of the previous book, but it does not a rehash, but kind of a refresher at the beginning of some of the events that happened in the previous book, and gets you going on your feet pretty fast. And I really like that you're able to just pick up the book and start reading, and boom, 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 you're into one thing, and then you're into another thing, and another thing, and another thing, and it never gives you that moment of like, yeah, I'm going to put this down for a while. It's a really nice read in that regard. The characters do develop relatively well. Annabelle Perkins in particular has a good character arc, and I suspect it follows on from the first book as well. But having not read that, I can't really comment on that. Maybe the author can comment in the comment section down below. One thing I really liked outside of the pacing and the character voice is this world building that was in this book. I did not expect a lot of world building going into a 178-page thriller novel, but there's good world building here. It takes place in the not too distant future and takes some liberties with technology that it lays out with concise rules, concise explanations, without ever giving you that moment of where you feel like you're just reading exposition, right? All the technology follows on nicely from where we are today, where you're like, I could see that happening down the road. Not today, not tomorrow, but I can definitely see where that kind of technology would develop and come from. And I think when you're grounding your fiction in a modern world-esque setting, in this case, the near future, that's what you want. You want your technology to flow from where we are now to make sense in the near future, where you're not taking huge leaps and bounds, but you are playing with it. You're saying, hey, here's what could happen. Here's where this could go. Here's where this could go if we had, better technology, more science, and so on. And that's definitely where you get some of that James Bond influence. There's some pretty neat technology and gadgets involved. And you get some of those James Bond and Q moments, right, of laying out the technology, saying, here's this thing, and does this, here's this thing. And it plays really well. I thought it played really well. I didn't feel like it was overly expository at all. This book plays with the concept of the deep state, right? And maybe you've heard the concept, maybe you haven't, depending on your background. But it's this idea that there is a shadow government that's actually in control of things outside of the government that you see, the public face, essentially. And it deals with the idea of the deep state ending up in a war with we'll call it the traditional state. And it's this conflict to try and bring down the deep state and reestablish total control of the country by the actual traditional apparatus of government. And that plays from a number of real-world conversations and ideas that have developed, but it definitely plays with some real-world themes without preaching, without feeling like it's trying to shove a message into your face, right? Where I feel this book has a weakness, because I always cover book strengths and weaknesses. And I think there's a couple of points that I thought were really strong, but would have been even more striking to the reader if they had been given a little bit of time to breathe. And that's hard to do. That's a hard balance to strike in a thriller novel, especially 178 pages. That's hard to get that balance. And I don't think it makes the book weak. I just think that a little more focus on letting some key moments breathe would have made for an even stronger book. That absolutely recommend this book. It's self-published, but it doesn't read that way in the sense of grammar and spelling and all that stuff. There's so many self-published books out there that they haven't been proofread, they haven't been beta read, they haven't been read through more than once. They just write the first draft and they throw it out there. This does not suffer from that at all. It's quick, it's enjoyable. You'll definitely get some James Bond vibes, which for me, I love James Bond. I literally have all the movies, except for the most recent one, which I'm probably not going to bother with. But so that was a fun. I like James Bond-esque characters and James Bond-esque stories, and that there's definitely elements of that in it in all the best ways. And if you're looking for a spy thriller, absolutely recommend this book. It's got elements of science fiction, but it's just really a natural evolution of our technology in ways that make perfect sense. And on that note, are used very, very well. There's nothing in this book, and this is really impressive when you're talking about, I believe this is the second novel from a self-published author, to not have any elements of the story that are left hanging. Okay, not only is everything tied up except for the lead into the next book, there's never a moment where you see something like a piece of technology and then it just never gets used or utilized. Everything is used. Everything follows the rules that are laid out for it very, very well. If you're reading a fantasy novel, this would be kind of hard magic, right? Where everything's got rules. It's hard technology. Everything has rules. Everything follows those rules. And when you understand how the items work, you can extrapolate what the character and what the character's opponents are able to do with that technology. So, he also does a very good job of introducing a technology early on in kind of a limited degree and then expounding on that later at a key moment in the book. That's great. That's what a lot of good authors do. You introduce a concept early that you're going to use, and then you utilize it to the fullest extent later on. So the reader is like, so as an example, let's say smartphones weren't a thing, but you put it in your book. Early on, you have the character looking at a smartphone and using it for something really mundane, but in such a way that you understand how that technology works. And then later in the book, you need that smartphone to do something vitally important. And the reader is already familiar with that. It doesn't come out of nowhere. And they're able to say, oh, you know what? The character could totally use their smartphone to do this. And then the character grabs their smartphone and uses it to do this. And it's a very rewarding experience for the reader. And it also helps to tie everything together. Okay. So author did an absolutely great job of that. I was actually very impressed with that because it's something a lot of newer authors don't always accomplish. But everything had its place. Every scene had a purpose. Everything worked towards the story and the character development. Nothing was extraneous, which is very hard for 178 pages. I look forward to seeing the next book. I look forward to seeing this author develop further. Nobody starts out perfect. And nobody is perfect later on. Growing with an author, I think, is a lot of fun. Watching them develop their skill and their abilities is great. And the fact that the author is already accomplishing these things that a lot of people struggle with early on is a very good sign. That's why this book is good, because the pacing is spot on, and you don't have white rooms, you don't have stuff that's introduced and just lays around. You have character development. You have characters struggling with concepts, or not concepts, with morality. You have all this stuff worked in that is so hard to do and is a major part of being a successful author. And this is not one of those books where I would say, well, it's self-published, and unfortunately, it kind of falls into that category of self-published books that are giving self-publishing a bad name. I think this gives self-publishing a good name. I think this author is off to a great start, and would love to see their comments down below in the comment section as to where they're going, plans for the future, that kind of thing. And of course, I'll post a link to the Amazon page. And if they have any other links, they're welcome to post those in the comments. Actually, I don't think you're allowed to do that. If they have any other links that they want posted, they can send me an email, and I will be happy to put them up in the description. Now, I don't know. So if you get Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. I don't know how that works for authors. I don't know if they make money off of that or not. Maybe the author can let me know in the comments. As far as the price, actually spot on. That's another great thing about this book. So I see a lot of self-published stuff that does not give itself the value it deserves. A lot of self-published authors have this thing where they think they need to put stuff out there for $1. Look, it takes a lot of work and a lot of time and money and effort to make a book. Do not sell yourself short. Do not sell your work for $1. $10 print, $4 on Kindle. I think that's about right, given the size of the book. And given, I think books right now in the 400 page range are like $12 to $15. That's pretty good. That's about right. Tells me that the author spent some time really looking at what books were selling for and valued his work, because there is this undercurrent of, well, I gotta sell it for $1 because this person sold it for $1 and that person sold it for $1. Well, but you gotta make money, man. you know. So great job on the pricing as well. I really enjoyed this book. I have not read it a second time yet, but I'm sure I'll get around to that. I've got a lot of stuff on my schedule reading wise, so I'll have to circle back to it. But absolutely recommend it if you like this kind of novel. If you like spy thrillers, if you like a little bit of sci-fi, then definitely I think you'll enjoy this book. I think the character. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Give the book a shot. Absolutely think you'll enjoy it if you like this kind of novel. And definitely recommend. And I would also say give the first book a shot. Probably before this one. I haven't read the first one yet, but if it's anything like this one, then definitely would recommend it. So if you like the video, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Hit the bell for notifications, and I will see you next time.